Okay.
You can begin Balabhadra, Prabhu.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana
Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Brajalanjana
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Brajalanjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava
Kunja
Bihari
Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana
Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamunatira Vanachari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Kacharya Astutarisata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Paribraja Kacharya Astutarisata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai
Jai
Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai
Jai.
Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Go Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai
Jai
Jai.
CC Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai
Jai
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai
Jai.
Navadip Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Mayapur Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Jagannath Puri Nilachala Dham Ki Jai
Jai
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai
Jai
Shishi Gaunitai Ki Jai
Jai
Shishi Radha Sharat Bihari Ki Jai
Jai
Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ganga Mai Ki Jai
Jai
Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai
Jai
Go Premanandi
Haribo
All
Hari
glories to the
Bol.
assembled devotees
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
All
Krishna
glories to the assembled devotees
Hare
Hare
Krishna
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees
Hare
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Hari Hari Bol.
Right. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Te Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavana Pacharani Vishesha Shinyavari Paschatya Desatarne. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
So I'll read the Sanskrit a couple of times and then some of you can try as well. Text Canto 10, text chapter 6, text number 33. Kalevaram parashubhishcha Chitva tate vrajaukasha dure shiptva vayavaso nyadahan kashta vestitam kalevaram parashubhish chitva tate vrajaukasha dure shiptva vayavaso na Nyadahan kastavestitam kalevaram parashubhish titva tate vrajaukasha dureshi tva vayavasho nyadaham kasta vestitam. Someone else, please. Anyone would like to try?
Let Kaivalya chant.
So I don't have a book here with me right now.
Oh, okay. Kalevaram parashubhish chitva tat te vrajaukasha dure chiptva vayavasho nyadahan kashta veshtitam.
Kalevaram parashubhi chitva tate vrajokasha dure shiptava yavaso nyadahan kastavestita.
Kalevaram parashubhish chitva tate vrajaukasah dure chitva vayavaso nayadahan kastavestitam.
Kalevaram parashubhischitva tatte prajaukasha dure kshiptva vayavaso nyadahan kastavestitam.
Kalevaram parashubhischa chitva te vrajokasah dure kshiptva vayavaso nyadahana kastavestitam.
Kalevaram parashubhish chitva tatte prajaukasha dure kshiptva vayavaso nyadaham kshata vestitam.
Kalevaram parasubhi chitva tate vrajaukasah dure chitva vayavaso nyadahan kastavetistam.
Anyone else? Drona, can you do the word for word?
Yes. Kalevaram, the gigantic body of Putana. Parashubhi, with the aid of axes. Chitva, after cutting to pieces. Tat, that body. Te, all of those. Raja Okasha, inhabitants of Raj. Dure, far, far away. Shiptva, after throwing. Avaya Vasaha, different parts of the body, piece by piece. Yadanan, burn to ashes, and Kashta Vestitam, covered by wood.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The inhabitants of Braja cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces with the help of axes. Then they threw the pieces far away, covered them with wood, and burned them to ashes. Purport. It is the practice that after a snake has been killed, its body is cut into various pieces for fear that it may come to life again simply by interacting with air. Merely killing a serpent is not sufficient. After it is killed, it must be cut to pieces and burned. And then the danger will be over. Putana resembled a great serpent, and therefore the cowherd men took the same precautions by burning her body to ashes. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavana Pacharani Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatitarani. So when I read this verse, and the purport especially, it immediately reminded me of one of my favorite verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam that I used to chant every day as a brahmachari. And that's from the 5th canto. I'm going to read it in a couple of minutes, about Lord Nrsingadev. And I'll explain what I mean by why it reminded me of that. But first, I just want to make, so I can keep my mind clear, this is what I thought in terms of this discussion. At first, the residents of Vrindavan did not recognize the danger that Putana posed because she was disguised as a beautiful nurse. She, in fact, was a terrible demon. Similarly, we, because of a lack of complete knowledge, don't recognize or can identify the demon-like desires and mentalities that are within us like demons. So in this verse that I referenced from the 5th canto, the residents of Jambu Dweep offer prayers. I want to read it because I love the Sanskrit. It's so beautiful, if I can pronounce it properly. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avir Bhava Vraja Naka Vraja Damstra Karma Shayan Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Puyishta Om Shram. The translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth, just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. It's a very beautiful purport. I won't go through the whole thing, but I just wanted to share the last part, which when I read it years ago, it really inspired me to memorize this verse and to chant it every day. As I said, as a brahmachari, that was my practice. So here it says, one should render transcendental loving service, because he's quoting the verse, Anyabhilashita Sunyam Jnana Kamarta Nadvritam Anukulyena Krishna Nu Silanam Bhaktir Uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada says, unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, who killed Hiranyakasipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakasipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsingadev killed him. So this last statement, this last sentence in this purport is so significant to me. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer this respectful prayer to Nrsingadev, as Prahlad did in this verse. So the reason that this reminded me, or this verse today reminded me of this verse from the Bhagavatam, is that the residents of Vrindavan, they took great precautions to cut to pieces the gigantic body of Putana with axes, and they threw it far away and then covered it and burned it. So they took great pains to get rid of this demon. So similarly, the demon-like desires that are in our heart, which is mentioned in this verse, the prayer chanted about Lord Nrsingadev, sometimes we may not be as careful dealing with those issues as we should be. So we can take help from this verse today, that we should be very careful to remove from our hearts these unwanted things. Now, of course, someone could say, and is absolutely correct, that we don't have the power ourselves to remove these things. That Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's his duty. And absolutely, that's what happens. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, Text 17, Srimvata Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, Ridyantastoja Bhadrani Vidunoti Sarisitam. And explains that Krishna is in your heart. And when he sees that we have developed the urge to hear about him, he cleanses the desires for material desires from our hearts. He's always there to do that for us. That's why he comes, to protect the devotees, not just from external demons, like monsters like Hiranyakasipu and Kamsa, but also the demon-like desires. I love that phrase because it allows us to compare and contrast demons with demon-like desires. They're just equally as bad. The demon who's external to us and the demons that are within us. I was trying to find an exact quote that talks about in the past how demons were on other planets and then on this planet and then in the same family. And then in Kali Yuga, they're actually within us, within our thoughts, within our hearts. So Krishna comes, Pritranai Sadhunam Vinasai Duskitam, to annihilate the miscreants and to protect the devotees. So those miscreants, those demons that are external to us, we focus on that quite often. We know so many. Krishna every day, when he's in Vrindavan, he would kill some demon. Generally speaking, the residents of Vrindavan did not attribute that to him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just thought he's a very powerful person, maybe a demigod. But every day he was killing demons, Putana, Trinavarta, so many. But the demons that are in our hearts are just as dangerous. And we should give serious attention to those things. So I was doing a little bit of reflection, and what came to my mind was the cleansing of the Gundica temple. I think recently that was a festival that was happening, cleansing of Gundica temple. And before I talk a little bit about that, I want to put it in context why this is meaningful, at least to me. I remember 1990-something in Mayapur, we had the GBC President's meeting. And during that meeting, two of the senior-most Prabhupada disciples, two gurus and ISKCON GBC members, were having a debate. And the debate was about the idea of initiation, meaning once you're initiated, all these sinful things are removed from the heart. Now, take notice, these were two senior GBC members, ISKCON gurus, Srila Prabhupada disciples, having this discussion. As a side note, devotees don't always agree, even philosophically, and that's okay. Sometimes we see things from different angles. So they saw it from different angles, and they were discussing back and forth in the middle of the whole meeting. Fortunately, a senior Prabhupada disciple was sitting there in the meeting with the entire set, 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita on his little table as reference. So as they went back and forth, one would say initiation means all the things are removed. The other one would say, no, it's a continuous process. And one has to be attentive in practicing Krishna consciousness to be careful of the things that come back into our hearts. And what that means is like we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're following the regulative principles, we're engaging in devotional service, but still we become disturbed by unwanted things. That's also explained by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this devotee who was sitting there with all the Bhagavatams, I'm trying to remember his name right now, I can't right this second. He called out to the group and said, I have some reference for you to consider. And what he was explaining was from Gundica Marjana, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and specifically a purport where Srila Prabhupada refers to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's commentary on that. And that's from Madhya Lila, chapter 12, text 135. E mata paradhara agge pata jat Sakala Shodila Tahake Varni Bekata. So it says, outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. So leading up to this, Lord Chaitanya is engaging all the devotees in the cleansing of the Gundica temple for the reception of Lord Jagannath. So he compares, as Prabhupada says in the beginning of this purport, he says, in commenting on the cleansing of the Gundica temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally giving instructions how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastaka. Who knows the first verse of Shikshastaka and can quote it? Anyone on the call?
Cheto darpana marjanam bhav mahadvagani nirvapanam Sreya kairav chandrika vitaranam vidya vado jivanam
Anandam
Anandadam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam Sarvatmya snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna sankirtanam.
Beautiful. Who knows the translation? Anyone?
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together and extinguishes the fire of material life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it helps us to take a full taste of a full nectar for which we are always anxious.
Thank you, Vishnu Gadavaru. Beautiful. Yes, this is a very important verse as well in context of what we're talking about, because again, the external demons, the internal demon-like desires have to be dealt with. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with too many external demons on the scale of Hiranyakasipu or Putana, who's the subject of this part of the Bhagavatam. But we have these demon-like desires, and as I said in the beginning, we have to be as afraid of each one. Krishna comes to kill the demons, but he also comes to kill the demon-like desires, just like in the pastime of Chankazi. When the Kazi broke the Madanga and the devotees went there with Lord Chaitanya 100,000 strong, and then Lord Chaitanya made a statement, today we will kill all the Mohammedans. Now that's not to be taken that Lord Chaitanya wanted to physically kill, but he wanted to kill the mentalities that were causing people to disrupt the Sankirtan movement. That is our business. Our business is to kill the demon-like consciousness or mentalities of the people in general by the process of Sankirtan. Yagai Sankirtan Prajaya Jantihi Sumedasa. So this Sankirtan movement is really the most important thing to help ourselves in cleansing our own hearts and also to cleanse the hearts of the people in general. So in this pastime of cleansing the Gundica temple, Lord Chaitanya and the devotees cleansed the inside of the temple thoroughly, as is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, with buckets and buckets of water, cleansing the temple. And Lord Chaitanya used his own garments. Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta emphasize this. He was so concerned that it was done properly that he used his own garments to cleanse the temple. And then it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they went outside to clean or cleanse the area outside, because they were afraid, or Lord Chaitanya wanted to make sure that none of the straws would come back inside the temple. So that is instructive to us. We work very hard. We chant our 16 rounds every day. We read the books every day, should be reading every day. If not, we should be. We try to do as much devotional service as we can, but still those things, material desires, come back in. So how do they come back in? And I'm hoping we can have a little discussion today and try to identify some of those things that creep back in that cause us disturbance. I mean, we all have the experience, I know I do, maybe I'm the only one, that when we're chanting our rounds, many, many thoughts come into our minds. Am I the only one, or is anyone else having that same problem? Drona says yes.
Yeah, me too.
Just like everything comes. Now, here's the trick. A lot of the things that come into mind are nice things. I had a wonderful Mataji call me a few weeks ago. She was saying how when I'm chanting my rounds, I want to think of the beautiful deity in Vrindavan. I love the deity in Vrindavan. I want to think about that deity. And I tried to explain the best that I could that Krishna is right there with you now. It's the same Krishna. And if you're chanting his name, he's there with you. And you're thinking of Krishna in Vrindavan as if he's different from the Krishna that's right there in the holy name. When you're chanting the holy name, the Lord is dancing on your tongue. Specifically, he's dancing on your tongue. He's manifesting Nam Prabhu in front of you. And we sometimes don't give full attention. So this is how I help myself get over this being distracted while I'm chanting. I say, I don't want to be disrespectful to the presence of the Lord. I think we discussed this the last time I gave class here. The Lord is coming. I should give full attention and not think of anything else. And then during that process, and by that attentive chanting, ultimately, all these sinful desire seeds that are in the heart, which Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar Devotion, how to get rid of those things, all those things can be destroyed by the chanting. There's one verse in the prayer Narayan Kavacha. Actually, I chant that prayer regularly. But I forget the number of the verse, but in one of the verses, it describes all these things that are disturbing to us. And then it says at the end, let them all be destroyed by the chanting of the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra can destroy all disturbances, all demon-like desires, because it's the same Krishna that killed Putana. The same Krishna that killed Putana is the Krishna that can kill all the material desires that are in our heart. But we have to be conscious of those things and how they creep back in. As I gave the example of those two senior devotees who were talking about the same issue, seeing it from different angles of vision. And when they heard this purport, they both agreed the process is ongoing. The process is continuous in terms of cleansing the heart. It's not like I got initiated, now it's done. Now, my slate is clear. It's true. When you get initiated, the spiritual master agrees to take your sinful reactions, so it gives you an opportunity to make spiritual advancement. But what he expects, now what she expects, is that you will consistently, conscientiously focus on the process. Srila Prabhupada gave us a process, and I tell people all the time that I did not get a specific instruction from Srila Prabhupada. They always ask me, oh, Prabhu, you're such a senior devotee. Did Prabhupada ever tell you anything? No. But he did tell me something, which is so important. When I took initiation from him in 1974 in Chicago, he asked me, what are the 4 rules? And I explained. And he said, positively. And I said, 16 rounds. And he said, your name is Balabhadra Bhattacharya Das. So he gave me that, expecting that I would do that for the rest of my life because he took the risk to give me shelter on his lotus feet. And expecting that I would learn the process, associate with senior Vaishnavas who can guide me in the process, and apply the principles of the Bhakti Yoga system in my own personal life. And whenever I would become confused, he would expect me to go to those who might have a greater sense of understanding to help me through the process. So we need to be able to recognize some of those things that may be causing us disturbance or demon-like desires. As I said, some of them are very positive. Sometimes you're thinking of so many things, and in this purport, some of you may remember, where it's explained that a devotee thinking that I'm going to do business to improve my devotional service. One time, Srila Prabhupada specifically pointed out devotees were selling jewelry and thinking that by this way can improve the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada was not at all pleased with that concept, that by doing something like that, you can improve your devotional service. You can do those things to supply resources to the movement, but that's not going to improve your devotional service. Rupa Goswami says, accepting those things that are favorable and rejecting those things that are unfavorable, that's the process of making advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we have to always be thinking carefully. Sumedasa, one who has good intelligence, thinking constantly how to root those things out, but remembering always that Krishna is in the heart. He's willing to do that for us, to help us with that. Srinvata Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Ridyantas Tuja Badrani. He's ready to cleanse the heart. He just wants to see that we are attentive to hearing about his glories, understanding that if we don't, then these demon-like desires will come back full force. We've seen it many times in our movement when devotees are not careful and they take too many risks philosophically and spiritually, that they become contaminated by different activities in this material world, whether it's business or education. I remember once His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, bless his transcendental soul, he blessed us all with so much association. He said once at a meeting that we were at, he said that, and this is after he had gone to, I can't remember, I believe he got his PhD in England. Was it Cambridge? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But he actually told us, he said, I don't know if that was the right thing for me to do. Not that no one should do it. He just said, I don't know if that was the right thing for me to do, to put that much time and energy into exposing myself into that environment. So whenever we do anything, we have to think very carefully, what will be the result of that? And we process that through what Rupa Goswami said, things that are favorable, things that are unfavorable. Is this thing that I want to do favorable to my devotional service or unfavorable to my devotional service? And how do we know which things are favorable or unfavorable? We have to take help from the Shastra. Therefore it says, Shastra Chakshusha. We should see through the eyes of the Shastra. And also Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. We take help of the Guru, we take help of the saintly persons, and we take help of Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, and the Shastra, the literatures. And that way we can learn. So my main point here is learning how to identify those things which are distracting us from the process of pure devotional service. Here's another nice quote from that purport. There's so many points in that purport. It's very long, that purport, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. By his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come into the temple. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of, as I mentioned, conducting business to improve devotional service, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault finding. So let's talk about that one for a second. There's a couple more, but kutinati, fault finding. I am very guilty of that one. I'm going to be very honest with all of you here. Honesty is the best policy. It's a constant battle with me in dealing with that issue. And I found a cure to fault finding for me personally, which is appreciating others. Instead of finding fault with others, try to find something you can appreciate, especially within the context of Krishna consciousness or even outside Krishna consciousness with the mundane society. Because Every person's skill or ability that I'm envious of is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. And Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that I'm the ability in man. So I'm seeing a man or a woman who has a particular skill or ability greater than mine, and I'm thinking, I'm finding fault with that person, criticizing that person, forgetting that that person is manifesting Krishna's energy through their activities. So kuti nati, we have to be careful of fault finding. And a lot of times, this is what happens. We know for certain that this person did this. Absolutely. I can prove it. I can show you. Boom. Now, sometimes that's necessary. Critical analysis sometimes is necessary in certain situations, but generally speaking, it's not. So we got to be careful of finding fault with others. The next one is pratisthasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. This one is very dangerous. Who knows the definition of humility that Srila Prabhupada gives in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Who knows that definition of humility? Okay, I'll help you out.
Not being very anxious to accept praise from others.
Yes. Thank you, Vishnu Gada. Not being anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. Boy, that is a big one. I've seen it over my life. And recently I said to some devotees that, you know what? You know, I should just be happy if I can speak to one person. It's like this afternoon, I have the great fortune of giving a Bhagavad Gita class to one person. He's a yoga teacher from here in Atlanta. And although he comes to our Tuesday class, which is several devotees, but he called me the other day and said, Prabhu, can you give me a class today at what time? 1 o'clock or whatever. One person. And that discussion is so wonderful, even just one person. But in my mind, I become attached to sitting in front of 200 people or 300 people or whatever. Recently, what was it, a year or so ago, I spoke at the World Hindu Congress in Chicago, and there were thousands of people. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, let me not be attached to this so-called profile, the satisfaction of thousands of people listening to you speak. That's a danger. And I'm not saying who is or who isn't, because that would be fault finding, but we should be careful of that. A lot of times we want someone to say, oh, Prabhu, that was so nice. They may say it. And if they say it, you fold your hands and say, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Manaji. I appreciate that very much. But don't become attached to it. Don't wait for someone to come and tell you how wonderful that was, what you did. In your heart, you offer it to Krishna. The result is up to Krishna. The next one he says is Jiva Himsa, envy of other living entities. And I think most of us would humbly admit that we've had instances where this has been part of a problem in our lives, that we've been envious. But don't be too discouraged, because Krishna is there to help us. The problem is there, the solution is there. The solution is simple. Take shelter of the Lord's holy names, take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, other literatures. Gradually over time, those things disappear. Or at least they come under control. And the verse that comes to my mind there is Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utamas Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, as you're all doing. And thank you so much, Dronacharya Prabhu, Vrindavaneshwari, all the devotees who are organizing this daily class in Philadelphia. So devotees have the opportunity to regularly attend a class on Srimad Bhagavatam. And all those things that are troublesome to the heart become practically destroyed to nil in loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Now, on the next one, Nishidachara, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra. So that's multifarious things. We'd have to go through lecture after lecture to talk about all those things. Those things that are forbidden in the Shastra. Next is kama, desire for material gain. And puja, hankering for popularity. So we have to be careful of all those things. And we have the process given to us by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, brought to us in the form of the Krishna Consciousness Movement by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, simplified in the process of chanting the Lord's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in conclusion, we can have complete faith that by chanting with affection, attention, the Lord's holy names, those things which are like demons, like Putana, will be destroyed. But as in the case of Putana and the residents of Vrindavan, they took the care to chop up that body, throw it away, burn it to get rid of it. So we should be as careful ourselves in dealing with our progress in Krishna consciousness. Be very careful. And remember, Lord Chaitanya, when he cleansed the Gundica temple, he cleansed it. I believe he cleansed it maybe several times, and then he went outside and cleansed it again to make sure it wouldn't come back inside. So we should be as careful in practicing our devotional service. So I'll stop with that and see if we have any comments or questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Thank you, Dronacharya Prabhu.
A lot of points that you brought up there. Very, very enlivening. I'm sure there'll be some discussion with the devotees. I asked the devotees to please raise your, because we have, I think, 18 people with us. So we just want to go systematically. Raise your hand and we'll call on you. Vishnu Gada Prabhu, you're first up.
Hare Krishna, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vishnu Gada Prabhu.
Thank you for the class and your good point. So many interesting and valuable points. You're quoting the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Nashta Prayeshva Badreshu. And the translation is, all the things that are troublesome to the heart are almost completely destroyed. So I was going to ask you, what are those things that are left? And then, you know, sometimes we hear that just by hearing and chanting that all the things will be destroyed, but then at the same time there's the analogy given by Lord Chaitanya about the gardener who's developing the creeper of devotional service, and the watering process is hearing and chanting, and then but also there's weeds coming up, and that says that the person has to be very careful to pull those weeds. So if you could elaborate a little bit about what's left there, you know, and then what are those weeds and what's the process of pulling them out? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's very wonderful. I mean, that's why I went back to that purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it sort of pointed out some of those things, and especially the ones about wanting respect in society, or especially amongst devotees. These are anartas, unwanted things in the heart. So it says, this is called anarta nivritti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. So again, some of those things are mentioned. The one that I want to refer back to again, kutinati, fault finding, is one that sort of lingers around for a long time. Even after we've been chanting, even after we've been reading, even after we've been doing the service, we still are affected by that, because sometimes we're just not as attentive. And as I tried to explain earlier, we justify it. Sometimes it is justifiable to point out the shortcomings of another person. It may be your managerial responsibility to see who's doing something right or wrong, and then you point it out. But then when it turns into a conversation where you're telling someone else about how bad the other person is, then that's dangerous. But devotees sometimes are guilty of that. But the other one that, to me, is a problem that remains for a long time, and we've seen it, the desire for name and fame for high position. That one stands out to me, and I'm sure Vishnu Gadapu, you could help on some of the other issues, but that one stands out to me. That continues, and we've seen it in our movement, all the way up to the highest position in this movement. We've seen devotees affected by this, and how to remain free. I'll give you a quick example. an answer to a question that was posed to Bhaktitirtha Swami when he was a brahmachari living with us in Atlanta. I was so fortunate to have his association as a brahmachari, along with Swarup Damodar Maharaj, but at that time, Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. So we knew that he was famous for being humble. I believe Prabhupada said that no one could match Ganesham. That was his initiated name, Ganesham. No one could match his austerities. He was a very humble devotee, very simple. So we asked him, Ganesham Prabhu, how can we become humble? And he looked at us without even blinking. He said, you offer obeisances 100 times a day to the devotees. 100 times a day. And being simple devotees as we were, we started doing that every day. We'd start counting how many times, and we'd run around and find devotees and offer obeisances because we wanted to get free from this addiction to this false ego. We wanted to become humble like Ganesham Prabhu. So that's my simple understanding of that Vishnu Gada Prabhu, is that things like that, they sort of hang around even after we've been chanting. I'm not sure if this exactly correlates, but in the second canto, Sukadev Goswami says, even after chanting with feeling, emotion, if the heart doesn't change, it's called a steel-framed heart. So can we be affected like that? Apparently, yes, if we're not careful. So that's the main idea, is that we should be very careful. Any more thoughts, Vishnu Gada Prabhu?
Oh, thank you very much, Balabhadra Prabhu. So then, you gave that example. Some other examples, any other practical examples or specific examples you might give of, pulling up weeds? I could think of some, but.
No, please, I want you to share. That's what I would love to hear from you.
Well, I know that when I was a new devotee, there was, raised in the United States, there's a certain cultural things and social things that kind of are developed in your heart, like observing Christmas with your family, or watching football on Sunday, and so those desires might interfere with your devotional service. But if you indulge them, if you can continue to do that, then of course they're for example, football on Sunday interferes with the Sunday feast, right? Yeah, so they can. So then the process of pulling up weeds is just don't follow those desires and engage in devotional service. Or if you want to go for your family Christmas, okay, but how can you make it as much Krishna conscious as possible, or not? Those kinds of things. Those very simple things that we experience.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that reminded me of you coming to Atlanta for my birthday party last year. And how Krishna conscious that was. And I was so happy, not because I'm celebrating my birthday, but because Vishnu Gada was there chanting, and my granddaughter, my youngest granddaughter, was there clapping along with Vishnu Gada's chanting. And it brought tears to my eyes. Here's my little granddaughter who's, she doesn't know much about Krishna, but she's watching Vishnu Gada chanting, and she's trying to imitate, and she starts clapping. And I told my son, take a video, because it was so special. So there's an instance of something like that, birthday, so-called party, but totally spiritualizing it with devotees and kirtan and a little bit of reading and Krishna's prasadam. It was a nice association. But I know instances where devotees, this is classic, somehow became traditional, that on Sunday feast, Super Bowl Sunday, it became like the smallest crowd of devotees on Super Bowl Sunday. And I was like, what the heck is this? Devotees not coming to the temple because of Super Bowl? That's not good. We should all be careful of that. And I'll give you one more example. One of my godbrothers from Atlanta, I won't mention his name, you wouldn't know him anyway. He left the movement 20-something times. And the last time he left the movement, he looked at me. We were on Sankirtan at the Atlanta airport. He was one of the biggest book distributors. He said, Prabhu, I have to go. I said, where are you going, Prabhu? No, I have to go. Where are you going? You know what he said? I got to go to the World Series. And he left the movement to go to the World Series. So I agree, Vishnu Gadal, we have to be so careful of those kinds of things and not let them distract us. Anybody else?
I have a question, but I can't raise my hand. So I don't, if other people have a question, I'll go last.
Please, go ahead, please.
So I have a question about the burning of, demons. Is yagya, when we have yagya, is that a way to, is that part of the process when we do a fire yagya, like an initiation, or we're doing like an Nishringadev yagya? Is that fire sacrifice also a way of purification, purifying and clearing of demons? I want to get maybe some more clarification around the role of yagya, potentially what you're talking about, fire yagya specifically.
Yeah, and they are very important in our culture, but I think sometimes, again, this is my analysis of it, we put too much emphasis on that, and we subtly, it's a very subtle kind of distinction, we subtly forget that the chanting of Hare Krishna is the Jagya for Kali Yuga. Those who are intelligent, Jagai Sankirtan Prajaya Jantihi Sumedasa, those who are intelligent in Kali Yuga take shelter of the Sankirtan Jagya. So Prabhupada says very clearly, whenever there is a Jagya, is preceded by and followed by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, because that's what makes it successful. If we don't have the Hare Krishna mantra as part of some sacrifice situation, the effect is not as potent. So the real thing is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Just like I mentioned, this Narayan Kavacha, which I listen to quite often, and it's very distinct. It says toward the end of it that all of these things, all these troublesome things, all this disturbance, let it all be destroyed by the chanting of the Maha Mantra. So my response to that, that's Vrindavaneshwari, right? I was trying to recognize your voice, right?
Oh, yes, sorry, it's Vrindavaneshwari.
No problem. Yeah, so we should do those things, initiations. I don't know, sometimes I think we've introduced some other fire sacrifices to the movement that may or may not be, were not there necessarily when Srila Prabhupada was there. I'm not going to say anything about that, but that's there. But you should never forget that the prime benefit comes from the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So the main focus should be put on that. That would be my statement.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And I just wanted to tag on a comment about Christmas.
My favorite time of the year.
Since Vishnugadam Prabhu brought it up, I think one of the things that since coming into the Hare Krishna movement and it actually made me a better Christian. I say this oftentimes, Ed and I reflect on this, that becoming Hare Krishna made me a better Christian. And so during Christmas time, to help bring more, to spiritualize it a little bit is, having my family chant Christmas, like just sing Christmas carols, like the spiritual ones, not just like jingle bells, but like really reflecting on the meaning of Christmas with my family and the religious and spiritual aspects of Christmas. So it's not always that, we're having them, chant Hare Krishna, or we're talking about Krishna, but we're bringing the Christian elements out of Christmas with family, that we can help lift up the true meaning of Christmas, which is a very spiritual and religious aspect of celebrating Jesus, who was an amazing acharya. And so, so really bringing out the true meaning of Christmas through the discussion in Christian terms. And so, spending time with family over Christmas can just be, if we bring it to the level of Christianity, can be spiritualized too, and not, from the Hare Krishna perspective, but from the broader perspective of spirituality. So I wanted to just share that.
No, that's very nice. Thank you so much. I mean, it reminded me of, in Atlanta, we used to have a Christmas program every year. But the Christmas program was targeted toward the inner city people. And I remember one time specifically, there's an area of Atlanta called East Lake Meadows, very notorious. And actually, they made a documentary about that recently on PBS. But during that time, when it was so notorious, I was reaching out to different locations in Atlanta to bring those people to our temple. So I have a photograph, I'll send it to you sometime, of these kids from East Lake Meadows that we brought to the temple and did a special program, Christmas, just for them, because we knew their attachment to Christmas. So they came, we gave them all transcendental gifts and some little books and everything and tons of prasad. And we were taking a picture, which is the picture that I have, and we were standing in front of the altar. And the person taking the picture was trying to get everyone to, look carefully. So this one African-American lady was standing there, and she kept looking back. And we couldn't get the picture. She kept looking back. She was right in front of Lord Jagannath, looking back. And guess what she said? She said, "He is so beautiful."
Oh, wow.
How could this lady know that it was a he, first of all? And how could she say it's beautiful? Because Lord Jagannath doesn't look, normally like what people think. So in doing a Krishnized version of it for the people to bless them, many people got the mercy of Krishna. So I'm not recommending that every temple should do a Christmas program, but my tradition in Atlanta was always to give a lecture on Christmas Day from the Science of Self-Realization, the chapters where Srila Prabhupada talks about Jesus. So, Vrindavaneshwari, I'm with you on that take that opportunity to enhance their devotion. Let's not say they don't have any devotion. That would be wrong. People who are Christians don't have devotion. People who are Muslims don't have devotion. My next door neighbor, I was just talking to him the other day, an old man, and he told me, because he's Muslim, he said, "I went to Mecca." They do that Hajj. He said, "I went to Mecca." And I'm looking at the guy. He's standing in my, across my yard, and he's got on a gumshoe, and he's this old guy, so nice. And I just felt something inspirational when he said that. It reminded me of going to Vrindavan. And he's a very devoted man. So yes, we should appreciate others' devotion. Same time, try to enhance it with our understanding of Krishna consciousness, but not to become distracted from the real conclusion, which is the Lord and his holy name is the greatest benediction. Prabhupada said it over and over. They can say any name of God they would like as long as it indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Drona, you let me know when this...
Looks like Sita.
Sita.
Haribo.
Yes.
Hi, I think Hariasha Prabhu wants to say something.
Excuse me? Is it my turn?
Sure, it's always your turn, Hariasva. Come on. You're the life of the party. Come on.
That's my old problem. But thank you so very, very much. I really enjoyed listening to you and Vishnu Gadadhar talking about the unwanted things in the heart and the demonic mentality, that poisonous mentality. So I was thinking something made me think of the Gita, and when Arjuna referred to Krishna as Madhusudana, and he had wanted Krishna to kill those, to remove those things, those unwanted things in the heart, those that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty.
Wow.
And so I was thinking that a lot of times we're just not conscious, and we're supposed to be the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I just want to deal with my own self. A lot of times I forget things. I'm just not conscious. And through the process of Krishna consciousness, a lot of times things come back up. And then you are aware. You just become aware that these things are actually things that need to go. You need to get rid of them. And then that desire can manifest. Oh, Krishna, please help me rid these things. So I guess my question is that how do we just get to the point of either becoming or remaining conscious and calling out to Krishna like that, like Arjuna did, if we really want these things removed? Because I think the science is so subtle that even from our desire, then the emotion begins to take place.
I wish I could remember the complete verse, but I know in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna, well, two parts. One, he says, practicing the regulative principles of freedom. I don't remember the exact number, but that's one. And he says again about practice. It's possible with practice, because Arjuna talks about how the mind is like the, flickering like the wind, chanchala himana Krishna, very flickering. But how is it possible to control it? It's like the wind. So it's possible by practice. So to your point, Haryasha Prabhu, if we know the practice, that's our duty. Learn the practice. It's not like, okay, I got initiated and I know everything. No, you don't know everything. I've been around for almost 40-something years, 48 years. Vishnu Gadar's been around longer than that. I think he would agree, we don't know everything. You may ask me a question, I may have to say, Prabhu, let me think about that. Let me research that, because I can't know everything. So yes, we don't. And we have to keep practicing. It's like now I'm practicing when I'm chanting my japa because of this coronavirus being, stuck at home all the time. I don't have to go anywhere. So I don't have to think about going anywhere. I just think about chanting. But I found this bad habit that I had. And that habit was feeling my beads to see how close I was to finishing a round. That's so simple and just so stupid. I'm just checking my beads. I'm thinking, checking my beads, am I close to the end of this round? And I didn't realize how much a distraction that was until I stopped doing it. And then when I stopped doing it and just started chanting and just not even thinking where I am in the round, my rounds go so beautifully and so sweet, and it's like amazing. It's amazing transformation. And that's been happening over the last few weeks after years of practicing. It's just somehow the super soul in my heart blessed me with that realization. Stop doing that. And it uncovered some great ecstasy. So practice, Prabhu, that's what we all have to focus on. Keep up the practice. We're not perfect, just keep practicing.
When you say that, it makes me think of the last part of that. So by constant practice and detachment.
Yes.
And when I hear detachment, it makes me think of I think the fifth key Boyjan produced in our japa, because all these things you're talking about, my mind gets around. And the detachment and the japa thing is such a key, because if my mind is getting crazy, at a certain point, if I can be detached from it, just leave me alone. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Just keep focused. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Balabhadra.
I think Sita had her hand up before. I think we have a couple more minutes.
Maybe a couple more minutes, Sita, and then Lokananda Priya, and then I think that all that we have time for.
Yeah, no problem.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Sita.
I have a very simple, quick question. The verse that you said, I think for Lord Nrsimha, that you said you chant to protect you from material desires. I just want to know which verse that was.
Sure, let me pull it up for you real quick here. That's 5th canto, chapter 18, text number 8.
Okay, 5:18:8.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you.
Haribo. You said one more question, Drona, Prabhu?
Lokananda Priya? She had a question, had her hand up. Okay. You there, mother? Okay, she's not there. Ram Kumar, this will be the last question that we'll take here.
Okay.
Krishna
Kumar.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai.
So Prabhuji, you mentioned like these 6 things like finding fault, pratishtha, jiva hinsa, sadachar, kam, puja. So these are the things we should avoid. These are the things we should avoid in our daily life, or kind of, or we should be out of this. We should not follow, or what we should. What was it actually? If we can put a bit light on this, it will be great, Prabhuji.
No, I appreciate that. And so these are things that it's in context to the cleansing of the Gundica temple. And Lord Chaitanya demonstrating by his own actions, being careful to pick all those little straws, because when you're cleaning, You have to do that. You have to look very carefully. I remember my service in Atlanta was to clean under the altars in the temple, because we had this little opening. And I was always remembering this pastime. And I would crawl into the little crevices and little corners where people sometimes forget. And it was like ecstatic, just finding all those little things. So what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada are doing, they're giving us the roadmap. These are the things to look out for. Look out for the fault finding. Kutinati, fault finding. Pratistasha, desire for name. Look out for those things. When you see them come, know that they're not the right thing. And then you take shelter of the holy name. And in some cases, take shelter of a devotee. Please, Prabhu, I just need your association. Call a god brother. Call a god sister. Call someone. If you really need some association, if you're having problems with some of these things, now that we know what some of them are, okay, you quoted nicely, the Pratistasha, the Jivahimsa, Kutinati, Puja, all these things. And as Vishnu Gada pointed out, there are many other ones, many other subtle things that you may not even be aware that you're doing. But another devotee can help you, guide you, protect you. Many of us have had the experience of a devotee coming and saying, Prabhu, I really think you should be careful with that. The classic one, which I'll end with, is Satsup Maharaj, when this bhakta came to him and told him, Maharaj, I don't think you're chanting your japa properly. Wow. So he wrote a little book, Japa Reform Notebook, because that devotee corrected him. Of course, that devotee probably should have shown more etiquette, but that's okay. Krishna had a plan. So we have to be careful not to become too overwhelmed with our own sense of worth. There are some ideas about, a sense of worth. Our worth is that we are spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. That makes us valuable. We can always think about that. I am servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So I don't know if that helps, Prabhu, but I hope it does. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're at the top of the hour. I think it's probably best that we conclude here. I'd like to thank you so much, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Thank you.
For spending the time with us. It's very rejuvenating. You spending the time with us on Srimad Bhagavatam Class. We've been ending our programs here with a prayer for His Holiness Bhakti Churu Maharaj.
Jai.
We know this is a critical time for him going through. We just had an update yesterday regarding, and they said these next couple of days are going to be quite critical. Would you like to lead us in a prayer for His Holiness?
Well, the prayer that, I'm not sure if it's the same one you've been using, but the prayer that was given to us by Srila Prabhupada back in the 70s when he was sick was, and we used to say it every morning after Mangal Arati, my dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please restore the health of His Holiness Bhakti Churu Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, thank you all. This evening, we have our Prabhupada Leela night at 7 o'clock, where we'll continue our reading of the Transcendental Adventures of His Divine Grace in Australia. So please join us, the same Zoom channel. We also have Balabhadra Prabhu and Haryashra Prabhu. They will be giving the part 2 of the discussion on race and in the Vaishnava community. So actually, Vaishnava views on race, more accurately said. That'll be next Monday, June 29th at 7:30 p.m. So if you have interest in that, please mark that on your calendar. Okay, I think we'll end here. Jai. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Itanam
Bhaveshwar.
Vaishnava
Haribo, everyone be safe.
Haribo.
Hare
Haribo.
Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ananta Koti Vaishnava.